So, what a week it has been for college football. In a week where we already had top tier college football games scheduled for this Saturday with Championship Saturday, we got incredible amounts of college football news from the coaching carousel to rumors to crazy moves in that coaching carousel. But last night, it continued because a report came out that one of the top recruits in modern recruiting era looks to enter his name into the transfer portal. Quinn Ewers, the quarterback that went to Ohio State, reclassified to go a year early, and we've got to break it down. But before we do, as always, y'all know the drill. I want to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Are you surprised that Ewers has entered his name into the transfer portal? And let me know what you're thinking. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification. I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. I'm on my push to 10,000 subscribers, and I would love to have you along. And if you did enjoy this content, be sure to like and comment down below. Those interactions, though they may be small, are massive to content creators such as myself in both getting picked up and maintained by the YouTube algorithm. But with all of that being said, we need to talk about this because it was surprising. And I think it was a little bit surprising that Ewers chose to reclassify and go to Ohio State a year early. Now look, first things first, he had the ability to capitalize off of his name, image, and likeness, and if you have that ability, absolutely do it. Football is temporary, but the ability to capitalize on something and profit off of your name, image, and likeness while you can, hey, by all means, take advantage of the opportunity if it's given. And that's exactly what he did. Because Ewers, when going to Ohio State, entered into massive NIL deals and got a lot of money out of it. But the situation he entered himself into was a precarious one because the Ohio State quarterback room was absolutely loaded. And sure, like I just said, CJ Stroud, top tier quarterback, but Quinn Ewers was a notch above the rest when you're looking at the recruiting rankings. So it was natural for them to think that he could probably go in there and compete for a job sooner rather than later. Fast forward to now, CJ Stroud has that job locked down. He's done nothing to lose the job, and his mobility offers a unique aspect to that offense. Quinn Ewers is still phenomenally talented, but I'm not super surprised when he enters his name into the transfer portal, especially with news coming out the other day that Devin Brown had committed to Ohio State. The writing seemed to be on the wall that at least one of those guys was going to transfer out, and so it makes sense that one did. It just happened to be Quinn Ewers before he ever actually got to get an opportunity to really push for the job, because he enrolled at Ohio State late and then was playing catch-up. But what does this mean for institutions pushing for Quinn Ewers? Because why wouldn't you? He's going to be the top commodity on the transfer portal market, and deservedly so. Quarterbacks are already paramount to football. They get the ball every single play they're on the field, and so they're a pretty key position, you could say. But when you have somebody as talented as Quinn Ewers, that's just going to be taken up a notch, and this is going to be a very fervent pursuit of a talented individual. However, the report that came out really signifying that this looked to be in the works pointed to three teams that could benefit from this transfer: the Texas Longhorns, the Texas A&M Aggies, and the Texas Tech Raiders. We need to break down all three. And first and foremost, all three make sense with Quinn Ewers hailing from Texas, so it's going to be, or it looks to at least be with those three teams, a home move. Not to say that those are the only three teams that are going to be pushing. As I just said before I listed those three teams, every team in the nation is going to make a pass at Quinn Ewers. Why wouldn't you? It just absolutely makes sense, and you'd be a fool not to, especially if he's going to put his name into the transfer portal. But let's really focus in on these three teams because there's something unique with each of them. And we'll start with Texas Tech because the new hire of Joey McGuire is one that has sent shockwaves through the state. McGuire is an incredibly respected figure in the state of Texas, and because of that, he has good chances with a lot of the state's top prospects. Now, I understand when you're looking at this list of three, Texas and Texas A&M are certainly bigger brands. And with the move to the SEC looming, there's going to be a lot more national spotlight thrust upon those two brands. But an individual like Quinn Ewers gets unique national spotlight no matter where he goes. He is a name that will get that following. It's just going to be compounded at Texas and Texas A&M. But that's not to say you can't do big things at Texas Tech. A guy by the name of Patrick Mahomes set the world on fire for the Red Raiders, but McGuire is an absolute name to watch because he has ties to this central Texas area, an area in which Quinn Ewers is very familiar with, the north central Texas region. So that's going to be something we have to keep an eye on. Texas A&M next. And Texas A&M is a bit of a weird one because they have a 5-star quarterback in their class already. But when you have a guy such as Quinn Ewers hit the market, why wouldn't you try your hand at him? Look, as great as the 5-star quarterback is in Texas A&M's class, he's not ranked as high as Quinn Ewers is. So you have this unique opportunity to try and get a guy that is in rarefied air as far as recruiting rankings go. You absolutely do it. And especially when you look at what Texas A&M is building right now. Texas A&M is pushing towards the nation's top recruiting class. They're number 3 right now, and they're in the contention for multiple top prospects in the coming weeks that will be making their decisions. So we're already going to have to be keeping a close eye on Texas A&M. Furthermore, they just received the nation's number 1 wide receiver, Evan Stewart, who also hails from the state of Texas. And I'm not saying Quinn Ewers is going to make his decision simply based on that, but if you were Quinn Ewers and you're looking at where to go and they just pulled the number 1 wide receiver, that's going to be a nice little pitch knowing you get to throw the ball to that guy. So that is something we have to watch. A&M is building something. A&M is in a really unique position with this recruiting class, and because of that, I absolutely think that deserves to be watched. But the last one, and the one that I think people are most interested in, is the Texas Longhorns, because Quinn Ewers has a deep prior relationship with the Texas Longhorns. Growing up a Longhorns fan, he was originally committed to Tom Herman and the Horns at one point, before decommitting and flipping to Ohio State. But that didn't stop Steve Sarkisian and company from trying to get back into this battle, because he desperately did. But by that point, it was too little, too late, and the decision had already been made, and that was compounded when Quinn Ewers decided to early enroll. But now that he's back on the market, you know that the first team probably trying to get his attention is the Texas Longhorns. And there's some few interesting layers about this. Because if you look at Texas, Steve Sarkisian hasn't sounded particularly committed to either of the quarterbacks there in Casey Thompson or Hudson Card. And though I do believe both of them have high ceilings and can be good football players, I don't blame Steve Sarkisian when you go back and watch. If I was in his position, I would be looking through the transfer portal as well, and especially if a Quinn Ewers comes about, I'm putting my eggs in that basket. You already have Malik Murphy in the class, who's got a high ceiling, but has got a ways to go as far as being a project quarterback. He's got a lot to learn, but he seems to have all the tools to be able to learn well. Seems like a smart kid, hard-working kid, and loves the game of football, and that's why you're so excited about a Malik Murphy. Quinn Ewers is a bit more ready now, and so getting him in there would be huge. Not only for that, but it would be the biggest recruiting win of the Sark era, even though he would come out the transfer portal. It'd be the biggest name to go to Texas in the Sark era, and that's what Sark needs right now. Especially when you look at how they finished that season, there's a lot of people questioning Steve Sarkisian right now. And look, I think Steve Sarkisian has got a solid offensive system, but the question we had to all ask ourselves when he went to Texas is, will he be able to be a great CEO? And right now, the Longhorns are in a really tough position, and I don't think you can have the season you have now twice and remain steady in that job. But I will tell you what will buy you good grace, getting in a name such as Quinn Ewers. And with Sark being an offensive mind, you have to like that it gives them at least a chance at this in the prior relationship. You know, I talked about Evan Stewart for A&M. Xavier Worthy for Texas had a stellar season. So that's somebody that Quinn Ewers could be excited to throw the ball to. Hop down to the comments. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what you're thinking about the 3 institutions that have been at least initially tied to this out the state of Texas. Undoubtedly, there will be more institutions calling, deservedly so. I think institutions would be a fool not to, unless they have absolute quarterback paths for the future, in which case you're good. But if you don't, you'd better make this call. Hop down to the comments, let me know what you're thinking. That's it. See ya.